You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I rise. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, naturally, there I go rising.
Tonight, we recognize Juneteenth. It's a chance to celebrate the end of the evil that was slavery. It is a time to reckon with the stubborn grip it still holds on us today.
And this is a Juneteenth many will remember. For some, maybe the first time they've really truly thought about it. That's okay, because there's never a bad time to start marching. As a Stapleton resident recently pointed out to us, it's never a bad time to start doing the right thing.
So tonight, we're going 360 on Juneteenth, its origins, its legacy, and what it says about the nature of change, that it is not a paid holiday in Colorado. Megan Lopez begins our coverage.
And we're back. Hit that applause. Yeah. Technical difficulties ain't never stopped us, huh?
In an unassuming building in an unassuming part of town.
Welcome back. Juneteenth Music Festival, live on JuneteenthMusicFestival.com.
An untraditional way to honor history.
This time that we're living in right now.
In the midst of a pandemic.
This year, the revolution has been virtualized.
Juneteenth celebrations have moved to the internet. This year, though, a time of change.
Out of your home!
Nationwide protests for police reform have renewed calls for Juneteenth to become an official holiday. In this 360, you'll hear from community organizers, a historian, a professor, and a state representative about the idea of making Juneteenth a holiday. First, some context. Juneteenth is the day Union soldiers rode into Galveston, Texas in 1865 to announce that the slaves were free. 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed and 2 months after the end of the Civil War. It's also known as Freedom Day or Black Liberation Day, but it's not a federal holiday or state holiday in Colorado. In a small studio in Lakewood, the calls for Juneteenth to be officially recognized aren't new.
America has to acknowledge its scars.
But this year, with this momentum, a fighting chance.
I don't know, there's just something about this one, bro, that just rings different.
A Change.org petition gaining more signatures by the minute. Organizers no longer asking for recognition, but demanding it.
The more that we don't acknowledge some of our scabs that we have and some of these ugly things in our history, the less that we can come to current terms and come to grips of healing.
It's a dizzying time to be a historian.
If there's one thing Susan Schulten has learned over the years,
the history of holidays is fluid.
It's that history doesn't change, but the lens we view it through does.
The evolution of holidays in the United States is fascinating.
So even though there are moments or people we've celebrated in the past,
it would seem to me just as appropriate to consider whether all the holidays we still have are worthy, right? Are still things that are relevant to us. Juneteenth right now is an opportunity to realize that emancipation is still a process, and that freedom is only won when it's fought for.
We are behind the curve.
Changing, removing, or adding holidays isn't easy. Just ask Representative Adrian Benavidez.
We tried lots of different things to name it: Indigenous Peoples Day, Colorado Day, Election Day.
Year after year in the Colorado legislature,
this bill is about Columbus.
An effort to repeal Columbus Day. And year after year,
the bill is postponed indefinitely.
Those efforts failed. Finally this year, a change.
It took 13 years till we were successful in repealing Columbus Day.
If Columbus Day is any indication, though, Representative Benavidez says Juneteenth has a long road ahead.
Any discussion about changing holidays or adding to our holidays has to be a full discussion that we have.
And I'm really excited about it possibly being recognized fully.
Even without an official holiday, Dr. April Alexander says Colorado is taking steps in the right direction.
We're already seeing this year is that a lot of companies are recognizing Juneteenth. So we have places like Target, JCPenney, University of Denver.
To her, this is as much a day of reflection as it is celebration.
This Juneteenth, I'm tasking people to take that history, recognize it, see it, and see what lessons we can continue to learn from it.
But while a holiday would be nice, she says education is key.
Juneteenth is something that wasn't taught in a lot of schools. There's just a lot of stories that just aren't being told about our history. So I think it's so important for, again, people to learn our history.
All across Colorado, there are reminders of our history and our heroes. Holidays are a reflection of our values. The calls to make Juneteenth an official holiday aren't new, but this year, in this time, they're louder than ever. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
And if you think creating a holiday is hard, try reforming the police. But Colorado did it. Republicans, Democrats, prosecutors, and police all on board for the legislation signed into law today by Governor Jared Polis.
And as a 17-year-old black student named Ashira Campbell told me yesterday, it's not just a protest against police brutality, but a protest against a society that is too comfortable with injustice.
No longer will you be able to harm someone who is maybe even accused of committing a low-level offense. You can't harm someone for that. You can't use deadly force for somebody who's running away. You can't use deadly force for somebody who is camping in a campground. No longer will you be allowed to use chokeholds in Colorado because apparently we have to tell people that.
And all of this was made possible not only by the death of George Floyd, but by those of you who refuse to stay quiet about it. And tonight, Denver 7's Micah Smith is going 360 on activism, then and now.
To me, Juneteenth means freedom. When in 1865, the Emancipation Proclamation was actually put and declared in our communities and to our people. I am Juneteenth.
To me, Juneteenth means taking off those mental shackles that America has put you in. It's time for us to be able to wake up, understand who we are, read more, and to be able to understand the only thing we could lose in America is our chains.
On the day the last slaves found out they were free 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. This Juneteenth, each of these young activists are taking part in a movement that's weaving its way into every corner of America and demanding an end to systemic racism.
It's been a problem that we've been going through for the past 400 years, and George Floyd's death has sparked something that, like I said, we've been going through for a long time now.
I asked this group of 7 young activists how their activism compares to those who came before them.
I think that they did what they could with the circumstances that they had and the resources and ability. Black people were in fear, and not even in fear, we weren't allowed. And if we did it, we would die.
Like, we're powerful now because our ancestors fought for so long.
Like right now, what we're doing, we would not be able to do if it wasn't for Martin Luther King.
Martin was, of course, the leader. There was no question as to who was in charge.
Reverend Dr. James Peters spent many years working closely with Dr. King. He says, much like the young leaders of today, Dr. King was also criticized for his tactics.
They criticized him when he used children, school children, in the demonstrations in Birmingham. He stood at that rail and he said, your children will get lessons today far more important than the problems of American democracy. And that will last them for their life.
Elijah McClain.
Peter says seeing young people still at the helm of the fight for freedom energizes him.
I'm excited. What I think is different now and the earlier marches, this one has caught on all across the country. People see the picture of that man dying with a foot on his neck. And they are appalled.
George Floyd's final moments were captured on social media for the world to see.
We're focusing on the future.
And Dr. Vern L. Howard, the chairman of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day Holiday Commission, says social media is fueling this movement.
People are literally filming and watching what's going on in real time, whereas with yesteryear, that wasn't the case.
Social media is also where this group says they empower each other to discuss reform and changes to systems like policing.
What we need more than ever is more transparency in the police system.
So even if we, start locking up the cops that, have killed people, it still doesn't fix our system, So I feel like we need to completely create a new system.
Right. They each agreed that the unity of people from all races and backgrounds supporting Black Lives Matter makes this moment in time feel powerful, especially this year on Juneteenth.
Normally, Juneteenth is a time to celebrate. Normally, Juneteenth is where we all come together as a community, where we feel, free, and that's what we're supposed to feel. But this year, I feel like it's not the same because we're not free. We've never been free. That was all an illusion.
If you're here to focus on the solution, raise your hand.
We are having a revolution during the time of Juneteenth, and I think you can't think of a better time for a revolution.
To me, Juneteenth means that the fight isn't over and that we have to change the narrative as a people.
To me, Juneteenth means to have pride in who I am and be unapologetically myself and just show what it means to be Black.
To me, Juneteenth means acknowledging and understanding our people and our history and where we came from.
I'm Juneteenth. Reporting in Denver.
I'm Juneteenth.
Micah Smith.
I'm Juneteenth. I'm Juneteenth.
Denver 7.
You can find a lot more on today's Juneteenth celebrations right now on thedenverchannel.com. Coming up, King Soopers pinches penny horses.
Plus, Stacy has the forecast for tonight and Father's Day.
I think it's a real tipping point of momentum going towards the day when, Martin Luther King said one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed.
It's not what they wanted, but Denver teachers have agreed to a deal on pay. Educators now are due to receive a 0.5% cost of living raise. They will get another 0.5% if voters approve a mill levy increase in November. Teachers also will hang on to the raises they are due for their years of service and for earning advanced degrees.
Boulder is cracking down on parties amid a spike in coronavirus cases. From now on, get-togethers of more than 10 people are considered a public nuisance. Exceptions will be made for those who share a house or if there's a significant physical distancing. Statewide, another 286 cases were reported today, and that's the most we've seen in more than 2 weeks. 256 hospital beds are in use, and that includes confirmed and presumed cases of coronavirus.
For generations, penny horses have proven a cheap way to keep your kids occupied at the grocery store.
Now King Soopers is doing away with them. Denver 7's Jason Grenauer has the story.
Northeastern Colorado, home to flowing fields, the city of Sterling, and horses. And these horses.
We specialize in the penny pony.
A fleet of fiberglass figures that you may recognize.
They just don't exist anymore except for the King Soopers that I'm aware of.
Since the 1940s.
My father-in-law put one in the very first King Super store.
And every store since, more than 120 in all.
It's about the experience that it gives to people.
For 4 generations, this one family has been behind the horses.
I named him Cottontail, so he has a name now.
That's Paisley. She'd be 5th generation. Of renting the horses out to each store.
I do all the airbrush work and the colors.
Repainting and repairing as needed.
70 plus years, there's a lot of businesses that have came and gone since then, and we're still here, at least we were, so.
Until recently, when King Soopers decided to pull the plug.
Been told they're going to be pulled out indefinitely.
The family is now in the process of removing these grocery store staples, stacking them in their Sterling warehouse.
We really hope that we can kind of get some word out there and maybe reconsider and just realize that what they really do mean to people and the kids.
Or find another store home. If not, the antiques may be put up for sale.
I do not want to leave these horses just sitting in a warehouse to rot away, where they could be out and bringing enjoyment to a lot of kids.
So the crusade is now on social media to save the family business and keep bringing smiles one ride at a time.
Pretty simple little thing that brings a lot of joy to a lot of kids.
In Sterling, I'm Jason Grenau, Denver 7.
Well, some of us got a nice rain to start the weekend off right. Meteorologist Stacey Donaldson has a drier forecast for Father's Day. Hi, Stacey.
Hey there. Yeah, it looks great. And you remember just a couple days ago, we were breaking afternoon high records. Today, though, temperatures in the 60s with some rain moving through the Front Range. This is a look at our Lookout Mountain camera, and it looks cloudy out there. That will be the case in through the rest of tonight. I think most of those storms have moved off across the eastern plains and are kind of waning at this point. Highs this afternoon in the upper 60s here around Denver, upper 70s out farther to the east, and mostly 60s and 70s for the higher elevations to our west. Our normal high this time of year is 84 degrees, so we were well below that with that high of 68, and even cooler than our record afternoon high that is 98 set back in 1989. So we're doing pretty well today. Severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 10 o'clock tonight for southeastern Colorado as thunderstorms continue to push on through. But here in Denver, mostly cloudy skies. I think we'll see those clouds part as we head through the next few hours. And then for the eastern plains, we also have that heavier shower activity with some lightning strikes. We don't have any watches or warnings from Ray to Burlington down to Cheyenne Wells, but it's in its last throes of thunderstorm activity here across the eastern plains. If you're doing a little yoga in the park or just hanging out in the park tomorrow morning, 55 degrees by 7 a.m., 68 by 9 a.m. and 77 by 11 a.m. And for the afternoon, for a little mowing, it looks like temperatures will be in the 80s. It'll be sunny and warm as that grass dries out. 83 will be our afternoon high tomorrow, sunny and breezy. Really a beautiful day tomorrow afternoon. A little warmer than what we've seen the last few days, 70s and 80s for the higher elevations. And we'll have those low to mid 80s here right around Denver, 60s and 70s as you head up into the mountains toward Idaho Springs, Frisco, and Winter Park. Our 7-day forecast in the low 80s for tomorrow, upper 80s on Sunday, and a few scattered thunderstorms on Monday with highs in the low 80s. And we'll see those 80s and 90s by the time we get to the end of next week.
As you celebrate today, reflect on the ways in which your Black brothers and sisters experience inequalities every day. Listen to their voices and ask yourself how you can be a part of the solution.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I felt it was important to start off by continuing our celebration of Juneteenth with the Broncos. That video was put out on Twitter today, and the team continues to be active in speaking out against racial injustice. They had already announced that Juneteenth will be a permanent paid holiday for the organization, and as we see in the video, the players are committed to finding long-term solutions to these big societal problems.
I am committed because I don't want my children to experience the same discrimination or racism that I have.
I am committed to continuing to educate myself, bring enlightenment to others, spread the good word of God, and keep fighting for what's right in America.
I'm committed to add resources to my community and communities around me because I have a legacy in my two boys. They will know Black excellence.
On to hockey now. The Avs continued their small group workouts today in advance of next month's season restart tournament. They were back on the ice at Pepsi Center. And see, if you look real closely, you can almost see hockey. The true sight for sore eyes was this beauty. Oh yeah, the Zamboni. Raise your hand if you missed the Zamboni. Just me? Anyway, this ramp-up period is actually fairly important for the Avalanche because they won't get to ride a wave of momentum into the playoffs like they did last year.
Like we came in last year pretty hot at the end and we're feeling good. We have some momentum. You won't see any of that this year. Everybody's starting from scratch. But I think it sort of levels the playing field, I guess. All teams are going to be healthy for the most part. Everybody's had time to heal bumps and bruises and injuries.
Nothing new to report from baseball. We're still stuck on Commissioner Rob Manfred's quick rejection of the players' 70-game proposal. But I thought it was worth playing this bit of sound from my trip up to Fort Collins on Tuesday because it's worth reminding baseball that, hey, the future of your league is watching. Does it disappoint you that the MLB can't figure it out?
A little bit. I think they just need to get on the same page and quit arguing about salaries and just play baseball.
Wrap things up in the English Premier League. Back in action this week, Steven Bergwijn of Tottenham blasts one past David De Gea of Manchester United, but the Reds earn a late penalty kick. Bruno Fernandes draws level, and we end in a 1-1 draw.
Juneteenth to me is the day that, we really finally heard that we were free. We were free, but didn't know it.
Some nice cool air here across the Front Range. 64 degrees right now in Denver, much cooler than it is off to the west. 70s in the mountains, 80s for the western slope around Grand Junction at this point. And we do have a severe thunderstorm watch in extreme southeastern Colorado. A few scattered thunderstorms making their way out through Burlington and Cheyenne Wells. No watches or warnings there, but just some cloudy skies here around Denver. And we'll see a few sprinkles off and on through tonight. But for the next couple of days, it dries out. We'll have low to mid 80s on Saturday, 87 on Sunday, and 82 on Monday afternoon with a few scattered thunderstorms, and more thunderstorms and a little more heat as we get to the middle and end of this upcoming week, guys.
Thank you, Stacy. And we leave you tonight with images from a Juneteenth to remember.
So we'll see you at 10. Good night.